The next item on the agenda is the action agenda, item number 13. Action as necessary or appropriate on matters discussed in the executive session. Is there a motion? Mrs. Hammond.
I move that we approve the selected employment items as seen in Exhibit A.
Is there a second? Ms. Baumgartner seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor, please let it be known by raising your hand. And that passes unanimously. The next item is the discussion agenda, item number 14. And it is a request to name the Irmo Elementary School auditorium in memory of Mr. Francis W. Allen, found in Exhibit C. Mrs. Goggins.
Sir, School District 5 Policy FF establishes the basic structure for naming of schools and district facilities. The policy states, quote, naming of schools and district facilities is a matter of great importance and a matter that deserves thoughtful attention from the board and the administration. Tonight we have Irmo Elementary Principal Tina McCaskill, who will present a request to name Irmo Elementary School Auditorium in memory of Mr. Francis W. Allen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I believe you have a letter in front of you from our SIC chair, Jennifer Baker, with my signature on it as well, in support from a community organization that came to Dr. Hefner, actually sent a letter requesting that something in the district be named for Mr. Allen. And so after looking at just all of the different contributions that he has made to our community, our SIC was very much in favor of that. We have what I call our community historian with us. Mr. Dan Kuhn is with us as well, just to talk a little bit about Mr. Allen's contributions, and he can tell us more about all the great things for Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Dr. McCaskill. Appreciate that. It's good to see you all here today. Thank you all for what you do. We appreciate it very much. Wanted to speak just for a little bit about Mr. Allen and exactly who he is, give you a little bit of knowledge about him. He was born in Saluda County, South Carolina, served in World War II, joined in 1941 before Pearl Harbor, the United States Army. So he was truly one from our greatest generation. He, after World War II, he attended Newberry College and also received his master's degree from the University of South Carolina and worked in different public schools in South Carolina. He came to Irmo High School in 1959. And when he came to this school, he told me personally, there were 350 students from grades 1 through 12 that served all of the Irmo High zoning area, all of the present-day Dutch Fort zoning area, part of the Chapin zoning area, 350 students in 1959. So he served at Irmo at high school, and then Irmo High School actually was, the new school was created in 1964 at the present-day location, and he became the principal there in 1964. Dr. Hefner received this petition from the student body president of 1964, Susan Looney Newell, and Susan felt like, as well as many people who were with Mr. Allen in the 1959 through the 1960s, that he deserved recognition somehow by the district and a building being honored by him, for him. After he was at Irmo High School until about 1966, returned to present-day Irmo Elementary School for 2 years. Then he, when the schools merged during integration at Rich Lakes High School, it was Irmo Junior High School. For 2 years he served there, and then Irmo Middle School was at its present-day location was built in 1970, and he became the first principal there. So taking into consideration all of the places that he had served, he really began his career in 1959 at what is Irmo High School, present-day Irmo Elementary School. And after meeting with Dr. McCaskill and other members of the SIC at Irmo Elementary, we felt like that the auditorium at Irmo Elementary would be an appropriate place to memorialize Mr. Allen with his service to this district. So that is the recommendation that came from the SIC at Irmo Elementary, President Irmo Elementary. Just keeping in mind, it was Irmo High School at one time. Thank you.
Is that in conclusion? You,
That's it.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Dr. McCaskill, as well.
Thank you. Thank you for your trust in me as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, this will come back to you all on the April 16th meeting on the action agenda.
Thank you.
Mr. Hawthorne, can I say something about Mr.
Yeah,
Allen?
sure.
I think, they told us all about his career, but I know when I came as a young teacher to Irmo High, of course, he was retired then, but he came to everything. I mean, if it was a ball game, if it was, a musical, theater, whatever we had going on, he was always there. And so he was such a legend even after he was not actually employed. And so, I think I'm just excited that they brought this to us. And he just was a lovely man, he really was. And he kept going. I mean, he seemed to never age because he had to be, I would think in his 90s when he died, I'm not sure. But I know he was around a long time and kept coming to things even when he didn't work for the district.
Thank you so much for the additional information. Item number 15 is the proposed fiscal year 18-19 general fund budget located in Exhibit D. And I guess that's Mr. Richardson.
I guess that's your cue to move.
You can see it, but it'll be back.
Can you read backwards?
Thank you, Mr. Halterweiner. Members of the board, tonight I'm going to present to you the preliminary general fund budget. Before I get started, I do want to draw your attention to the little blue books that you hopefully received last week. All the information I'm about to talk about, all the detail is in this booklet, just to kind of give you a little idea of what's in here. The first section, obviously, is the revenue and expenditure detail that we're going to talk about. The second section is the salary schedules and supplement schedules for the entire district. The third section would be all of the fees that we are, bear in mind, we've eliminated a majority of our fees, but there are still a few fees that we charge in our schools. And then in the fourth section, can't count, are all the per pupil allocations we give to our schools on an annual basis. The information here is exactly the same as it was when I presented the parameters of the budget to you, except for the fact that the House of Representatives has passed their version of the budget, and it was passed on March 14th. Currently, the Senate Finance Committee is in the process of discussing the budget, and there's some changes to what I'm about to give you. I'll kind of explain those as we go. But just to give you an idea and hit the highlights of what the House of Representatives' recommendations were, was a no increase to the cost of, no increased base student cost. There was a 2% cost of living for teachers. And then those are really the ones, and there was money set aside to help pay us for those increases in the teacher salaries. And then all these other items that here are just really for the state as a whole. Some of the considerations that I wanted to draw to your attention in the House version of the budget are, there's going to be an increase that we knew was coming for our employer contributions to the retirement system. We also are expecting a 7.4% increase to the employer health insurance premiums. There's a mandated 2% cost of living for teachers in this version of the budget, and step increases for all eligible employees. And we've also added in 2% cost of living for all of our district employees as well. Any additional staff that we might need to meet board policy on class size. There was some non-recurring expenditures we had budgeted in the current year that are going to really help us through this tight budget year, I believe. Chapin Middle School expansion, there's some things there that we have to consider. And then the House of Representatives, I had talked with you earlier about the change in the methodology for poverty index. The House had reversed what was going to happen, and they've reverted it back to the 2014 poverty index that has been used for the last several years. Now, some things have changed since this budget was given to you. The Senate Finance Committee has gotten a hold of this budget. They have not finished it unless they finished it today, which I do not know. No, I'm sorry. I know they didn't finish it today because they don't come back till tomorrow. Part of what I already know they have done is we will still have the 1% increase in our retirement, and the health insurance is still going up. However, they have reduced the cost of living allowance for teachers to 1%, in which case we will adjust everything to reflect that in the version of the budget that we present to you in April. They also have reversed course on how this poverty index is going to work. And they've gone back to the new methodology, the new calculation, which includes TANF, SNAP, Medicaid, homeless, transient, and foster care students in this calculation. You may have seen an alert that went out from SCASA last week in regards to this move, which reduced funding across the state by approximately $22 million. I didn't really understand how that could happen, so I've actually called some of the staff of the Senate, and what they're going to see is happening is that $22 million is going to be redirected back to the base student cost, so artificially increasing the base student cost. Don't think it's going to hurt us financially by doing that. It should help us, quite frankly. So with the same amount of money, the base student cost is probably going to increase, if that makes sense. Probably doesn't make sense, but basically you don't have as many weighted pupils to have to fund, so that'll artificially drive up the base student cost. And there's also some talk in the Senate Finance of increasing the base student cost to help us cover the step increases that we are required to give teachers. That figure that I saw in the paper is approximately, I think, $85 they were going to add to the base student cost. However, after talking with some staff members today, I'm not sure they're going to have funding necessary for the entire $85 added to the base student cost. However, it looks like it may be somewhere in the $50 to $55 range. Currently included in this budget, as you can see, are some additional staff. We have a guidance counselor, a math interventionist at Adjournment Middle School, and 1.5 teachers, certified teachers. Also, we have some additional support staff, 3.2 teaching assistants. 3 of those are special ed, 1/2 of a school nurse, and then I mentioned earlier about the Chapin Middle School expansion. We've got a custodian added in to help us there at that school. We've also looking to get an additional resource officer for the Center for Advanced Technical Studies. We also look to increase our contracted mental health case managers, increasing the days for our district safety officers, have them working 12 months with the rest of us. We're looking to eliminate the 12% salary reduction for returning retirees due to the impending teacher shortage. And then, of course, all your salary increases, the cost of living, staff, the credentials, all of that is also included in this budget. These numbers obviously will change when I come back to you because of the change that the Senate Finance Committee's made, and I would assume the full Senate will as well. So don't pay attention to all of this because it's going to change. But I guess the bottom line is, what you can take from this is that, approximately 87% of our budget, which we've done better in the last couple of years, is salaries and fringe. So it doesn't leave us a lot of room on any other line items in our budget to do anything with. Salaries and fringe are really our big items. This just breaks it down graphically for you. I put revenue here just to let you know, you'll see when I get a little further along in this that it's showing a shortfall. Well, there's a reason for that, and hopefully we'll be able to explain that to you. These items right here, let me back up one, I'm sorry. So these numbers that you see here are really the current revenue numbers that we've got budgeted for the current year. I haven't had enough information to be able to give you an idea on what we can expect locally next year. Received some information today that's going to help out tremendously, so I'm going to say by the 16th of April, I'll have a pretty good idea of what we're looking at for next year. These numbers, outside of those last three numbers there, tier 1, 2, and 3, those numbers are pretty much set in stone, and the rest of those numbers are going to be subject to change depending on what the Senate does. So what we're looking at currently is a bottom line of $182,984,408 in revenue. It just shows you graphically how that's broken down. And this is what I was talking about a little earlier. I'm showing a deficit, obviously, of $3.7 million roughly, but that is because of a number of items that I do not have enough information to give you a revenue figure for. The expenditure side of things are easy for us to do. The revenue, however, takes a little bit more time due to the fact that we're just now getting enough information to be able to come up with those estimates. This, actually found this today, it was not in your packet, but this will be our millage, allowable millage increase for the upcoming year. Approximately 7.6 mils, which is based on the consumer price index of 2.13% and the population growth for our district of 0.82%. And if you want to do a ballpark of what that would be worth, somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 per mil. So that would probably bring us $1.9 million if we were to increase millage by that much. These dates, just draw your attention right now, Senate Finance has got the budget. They have not completed it. Then the Senate is expected to take it up in next week. And hopefully by that time, we're going to have some good information to return and give to you on the April 16th board meeting. And this is our calendar as well, and that's why I was speaking of the April 16th meeting. And that, in the immortal words of Forrest Gump, is all I have to say about that. Unless you have specific questions.
I had a question. On one of the slides, we were increasing mental health workers. Do we have, how many, that said increase, so do we have them at each school, or that we have their itinerant and go around? I'd love to know what we have now, because I know it's a need.
We currently do not have a mental health caseworker at every school. However, we do have mental health caseworkers that support a number of schools. For example, they support 2 or 3 schools as a whole. So that's pretty much what we have, both in Lexington County as well as on the Richland County side.
Any other questions? Mr.
Me?
Richardson. Mr. Richardson, on one of your slides you had, and just an example of what this is, that's all. Just an example, you had other objects.
And the expenditures?
Yes, in the expenditure side. What is an example of that?
Memberships or other, this is how the state classifies them. It's based on whatever object, but it's memberships, those type of things, or and other objects.
Memberships?
Yes, sir. I mean, that's just one example, and there are others which I can't think of off the top of my head.
I have another one. Is that pretty much in stone if the Senate is proposing to cut the 2% cost of living to 1%? Do you think that, or is that still up in the air?
It's still up in the air, but because of obviously what happens during this process is when the Senate approves their version of the budget, it will go back to conference committee and they'll hash it out.
But if they do the 1%, that's what we would do too. Even
That's what we're going to propose.
if we're going to propose whatever they do.
This is a tight budget year as far as what we've seen so far. You know, we did some things this current year, but during the budget process last year, that are really going to help us, I think, in this year. But that shortfall that I showed you earlier, $3.6 million, but honestly, somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 or $6 million, had we not budgeted some one-time expenditures that we do not have to re-budget again this year. Terry, we tried to plan for, because we had a number of people we thought were exiting the Terry system, and there's going to be a pretty good terminal leave payout, so we budgeted for that. That's not going to be needed for the upcoming fiscal year, so that's going to help us tremendously looking forward. So that's about $2 to $2.5 million that we've currently got in our budget that we're not going to have to raise this year. It's not a recurring thing, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mr. Richard, I have one more question. The step increase for employees that are eligible for it, is that always just a certain percentage?
It is.
Is it like 2%?
Well, the teacher salary schedule, on average, it does vary, is about 2%.
Okay, I had teachers ask me, it's not an exact one you can go by.
It's different for each cell.
Okay.
For fringe benefit per employee, is there a certain percentage that you calculate in your estimates of how much the fringe benefits cost us?
We do. I mean, obviously, there's some things that we don't know, but we try to, and we say with salaries as well, we use what we think is basically an average salary. I believe we're looking at about 45% fringe for salaries like currently. And it can be more than that, depending on how much you make and what type of health insurance coverage you have and all that. It could actually be more than 45%.
Anyone else? So, being an ultimate optimist, we'll look to see you on April the 16th.
And hopefully it will be a little bit better picture than what I just showed you here.
We trust you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next item is item number 16, Board Policy BEDH, Public Participation at Meetings, in Exhibit E. Mrs. Goggins, she'll lead us in that.
Mr. Richardson, you didn't put that podium back where you found it.
He put it in the budget.
Down in the hole.
Thank you. School District 5 of Lexington and Richland counties values the input of the public and works diligently to provide prompt information and resources, responses to inquiries regarding school and district matters. On May 19, 2017, several significant changes to the State Freedom of Information Act was signed into law, including a shorter timeline for responses, clarity on FOI fees and costs, and protections against burdensome requests. Since it was passed, the FOI changes have been touted as a successful, fair, and effective means for the public to get information. School District 5, however, has a duplicate process. Policy BEDH also provides the means for the district to provide information to members of the public. If questions are submitted in writing, members of the public, quote, receive a response by the next school board meeting, and the responses are posted on our website. The main difference is accountability. Our policy provides no means to recoup the costs of providing responses. Policy BEDH, which was first adopted several decades ago, also contains no protection against burdensome requests. We want to reiterate that District 5 values open communication with our families and communities. We also value efficiency. Calls and questions are fielded each day, and parts of the policy BEDH duplicate processes we already have in place. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Any questions for Mrs. Goggins? Ms. Gates?
Are you bringing a recommendation for how we might address that policy, or what?
The goal tonight was just to highlight that there is a duplication in process. We definitely try to go through our policies and make sure that they are up to date. So the next steps, and Mr. Halterwanger asked me to share those with you, would be one, the board can decide on policy revisions tonight, and it could be up for first or second reading at the next meeting. The board could decide, two, if no changes are needed, or third, the board can decide to ask that this be a discussion item at the next meeting. So
Would you mind repeating those again, please?
Sure. The first option, the board could decide on proposed revisions tonight, and we could bring it up for first and second reading at some meetings upcoming. Option two, the board can decide that no changes are needed. Or third, the board could ask for this to be a discussion item at the next meeting.
Mr. White?
I would suggest that we ask the administration to make a proposal and to, with your assessment of the duplications, costs are concerned. If there's a way to centralize and everything flows in the proper channels. A lot of people don't become excessive, but sometimes there's a lot of effort, and a lot of time and money that we have to expend. So I think I'd personally like to see a proposal that y'all create for us to discuss next time, or as soon as you get it finished. Obviously, we want you to feel comfortable presenting it. You have enough time to do that.
Mr. Hammond?
I'm a little along the same lines as Mr. White. I know when I read this, that I was looking for the blue, in case you were bringing us some changes that you were recommending for us to look at. And so I agree with Mr. White. I think it'd be good for us to, I think this is very important. It's like I said, we want to value open communication, and, but we ought to address the needs also of the cost. But in other words, I would not want to just tonight propose it. At least that's me. And I would rather have time with it. I think it's so important, and I'd like to hear from the administration like Mr. White said.
We would be happy to bring you some proposed revisions, provided you're open to that. I think step one was to see if you're open to looking at this policy.
Yes.
Very much so.
I think we are. And I think, Ms. Goggins, I remember one night you mentioned about the number of FOIA requests you get per month sometimes. What do you remember?
That's correct. Last school year, we had over 90 FOI requests, and then we also had some public participation questions that were duplicate questions that were answered through FOIA.
And this
current school year, we're at 40.
This takes time, and I remember asking you the question, you don't get any more help for that, right?
No, we do not.
You don't? Okay. So
We'll be happy to bring you some recommendations, and you want to come back for discussion only at the next meeting, or you want to come back for first reading?
First reading.
First, I think, can this serve as our discussion?
Yes.
So it could come for first reading.
Be happy to do that.
And I would also, I know I saved my notes, but we had it on the school board Association for the changes that they have made about, and I thought that it did allow for it. They use the word burdensome, I think, and, you know, that you could charge for it. So, you know, I think we also ought to, in your presentation, also know the changes, you know, so that we're aware of, you know, some of us know, but I mean, it'd be good to reiterate those, because that's such a balance, you know.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I think your question, Ms. Hammond's excellent, and it also illustrates the very problem that we have, that we really wouldn't address the FOIA. This isn't a FOIA policy, this is our public participation, and they get intertwined.
Right.
So I appreciate the dilemma that it creates, because we even have a difficult time figuring out how to discuss it, because they overlap so much. So we do look forward, I look forward to hearing that back, and I think the paragraph that has the comment about questions in writing, those just refer to the FOIA policy. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And on our agenda at the bottom of it, this in the BEDH policy, you use the word may receive a written response in a timely manner. On what we've been using, it's will. So we need to make that correction as well.
So it's may.
It's may in the policy.
It's may at the, if there's a question that we'd like to answer at the time of the meeting. It's will when it discusses the written policy. So the written policy says all questions provided in writing to the Director of Community Services will receive a response. And I think, again, it goes to the problem that Ms. Goggins has brought to us, that there's a lot of confusion in there for when it is a may and a will.
We have a will that you make it right. Okay, Ms. Hutchinson.
I just thought of something as we were talking. I'd like to know what other school districts do with regards to public participation. And, you know, do all school districts have public participation? I think I remember sometime learning that it was not really required by law. And, you know, what are some best practices is what I'm looking at for the greatest ability for us to hear feedback from the public, but also for the efficiency of the board meeting and the good use of our employee time and resources.
I've pulled the neighboring districts, and there's a wide variety. One ranging from submitting public participation questions 24 hours in advance of a board meeting to exactly what we do, willing to answer openly any questions, or people being able to submit questions and having them answer. So it's a wide variety. It depends on what the district and their boards decide or deem appropriate.
And
But I have not found any other district that does what we do. That is, you can submit questions in writing and get a response by the next board meeting. And when I talked to my counterparts, they said, you know, your policy was written in 1973, I think I wrote down, so that might have predated email and a lot of other ways to communicate and get information to people. So we thought we would bring it forward for your consideration.
Thank you. Ms. White?
And I think I may just highlight a point. I mean, obviously duplications are a problem, but I think also the message is efficiency, so that we're not unnecessarily spending money in more efficient ways. Communication.
Thank you so much. Congratulations to the young man at the top of the stairs, Mr. Giuliani. Congratulations to you as well. Thank you. Anything else to come before this illustrious board tonight? record time, I believe.
Yeah, always.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Mr. White, seconded by Mr. White. Good night, have a wonderful evening. Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any objections? I'm sorry. All those in favor, please let it be known by raising your hand. And that passes unanimously.